This one is going to be called Sin. Evil, sin, basically the same thing. I read from the Institute for Scripture Research, the ISR, because it takes a direct translation from Hebrew to English, Greek to English, and Aramaic to English. Yah is the Elohim of the heavens and the earth, the first and the last and the only, and he's an extremely jealous El. He's so jealous that he doesn't even want the names of idols or mighty ones to come to our lips. And Yah is short for Yahweh, Yahweh, Yod-Heh, Vav-Heh. It's like saying Dan, Daniel, Daniel with an E. What is the difference and does matters when people say that Phil, Bob, Sam, and Aaron are the same name? We know they're not, and no one in their right mind would ever believe that. Excuse me. And only a fool would believe that a hammer could force its creator to do anything, and there was no letter J in the Hebrew, Greek, or Aramaic text, because the letter J is about 600 years old, while the son of Elohim, Yahoshua, died on a stake for the sins of all of humanity over 2,000 years ago, and a direct translation from Hebrew to English, Yahoshua is Joshua, and I strongly believe that the son of Elohim's name, Yahoshua, means Yahweh is salvation. There's quite a few here, so I'm just going to get into them, and they're decently long, I guess. The lamb I did today. I also researched it today, which is cool, because I also did Sins Day, too. There were some other ones that I had before, but I couldn't find them, so praise Yahweh that I'll just keep doing it anyways. Keep looking for new things, asking him what I should look up, and look it up and do it. This is Exodus 20 is where we're going to start, the entire Exodus 20. Quite a few of them are actually just like, well, not quite a few, but like a few of them are full chapters. Anyways, Exodus 20, and excuse me. And Elohim spoke all these words, saying, I am Yahweh your Elohim, who brought you out of the land of Mitzrayim, which is Egypt, out of the house of slavery. You have no other mighty ones against my face. And to do that would be sinning. It'd be evil to worship something that didn't even create you. It kind of seems insulting. You do not make for yourself a carved image or any likeness of that which is in the heavens above, or which is in the earth beneath, or which is in the waters under the earth. You do not bow down to them, nor serve them, for I, Yahweh, your Elohim, am a jealous El, visiting the crookedness of the fathers on the children of the third and fourth generations, fancy English generations, for those who hate me, but showing loving commitment to thousands of those who love me and guard my commands. I'm just going to let him out real quick, because this is going to take a while. I don't want him to get all... Oopsie. Oh, more. That's fine. That means you won't hear him meowing. And we can listen to the birds. Because it feels like 1 degree Celsius, so it's decent enough for me to have the window open. Excuse me. Excuse me, where am I? Yes, who guard my commands. You do not bring the name of Yahweh your Elohim to naught, N-A-U-G-H-T. Another word for bring is lift up or take. The name of Yahweh your Elohim to naught, for Yahweh does not leave the one unpunished who brings his name to naught, N-A-U-G-H-T. Remember the Sabbath day to set it apart. 6 days you labor and shall do all your work, but the 7th day is a Sabbath. And it says there are other Sabbaths, but this is the weekly Sabbath. There's one every single time comes around to the 7th day is the Sabbath. And then you work 6 days, and the 7th day is the Sabbath every week. So in their days, there was still 7 days a week. But the 7th day is a Sabbath of Yahweh your Elohim. You do not do any work, you, nor your son, nor your daughter, nor your male servant, nor your female servant, nor your cattle, nor your sojourner who is within your gates. For in 6 days Yahweh made the heavens and the earth, the sea, and all that is in them, and rested the 7th day. Therefore Yahweh blessed the Sabbath day and set it apart. Respect your so if you don't do the Sabbath, then again, you're also sinning. Respect your father and your mother, so that your days are prolonged upon the soil which Yahweh your Elohim is giving you. So you respect your parents. That does not happen at all in this day and age. But it also says that the children will rule over their parents in the end days. Oh boy, look at that. Parents can't do anything nowadays. You do not murder, and if you if you're wrongfully mad at someone, technically you've committed murder. You do not commit adultery. If you looked at a woman with lust in your heart, you've committed adultery. You do not steal. You do not bear false witness against your neighbor. You do not covet your neighbor's house. You do not covet your neighbor's wife, nor his male servant, nor his female servant, nor his oxen, nor his donkey, nor whatever belongs to your neighbor. And anyone who comes around you is your neighbor. And all the people saw the thunders, the lightning flashes, the voice of the shofar, and the mountain smoking, and the people saw it, and they trembled and stood at a distance, and said to Moshe, M-O-S-H-E-H, you speak with us, and we hear, but let not Elohim speak with us, lest we die. And Moshe said to the people, do not fear, for Elohim has come to prove you, and in order... I just want to say, for Elohim has come to prove you, and how else do you prove someone? By actions. Actions is how you prove someone. Because you can talk a lot, but if you don't prove it with your actions, then your talking means nothing. Excuse me. And in order that his fear be before you, so that you do not sin. It's good to fear the one who created you. It's not good to fear the other idols, because then you end up doing what they ask and end up bowing to them. That's why. So the people stood at a distance, but Moshe drew near the thick darkness where Elohim was, and Yahweh said to Moshe, say this to the children of Israel, you yourselves have seen what I have spoken to you from the heavens. You do not make besides me mighty ones of silver, and you do not make mighty ones of gold for yourselves. Make a slaughter place of earth for me, and you shall slaughter on it your ascending offerings and your peace offerings, your sheep and your cattle. In every place where I cause my name to be remembered, I shall come to you and bless you. And if you make me a slaughter place of stone, do not build it of cut stone, for if you use your chisel on it, you have profaned it. Nor do you go up by steps to my slaughter place, lest your nakedness be exposed on it. Interesting. Well, that last part was kind of interesting. But so far as we're learning, it would be a sin not to respect people. Deuteronomy 5. Here's Yahweh. I literally switched straight to it. Deuteronomy 5, the whole thing. And Moshe called all Yisrael, Y-I-S-R-A apostrophe E with a half a check mark L, and said to them, hear, O Yisrael, the laws and right rulings which I speak in your hearing today, and you shall learn them and guard to do them. Yahweh your Elohim made a covenant with us in Horeb, H with a dot, O-R, E with a half a check mark, B with a line underneath of it. Yahweh did not make this covenant with our fathers, but with us, those who are here today, all of us who are alive. Yahweh spoke with you face to face on the mountain from the midst of the fire. I stood between Yahweh and you at that time to declare to you the word of Yahweh, for you were afraid because of the fire, and you did not go up to the mountain. And you did not go up the mountain, saying, I am Yahweh your Elohim, who brought you out of the land of Mitzrayim, out of the house of bondage. You have no other mighty ones against my face. You do not make for yourself a carved image, any likeness of which is in the heavens above, or which is in the earth beneath, or which is in the waters under the earth. You do not bow down to them, nor serve them, for I, Yahweh, your Elohim, am a jealous L, E with a half a check mark L, visiting the crookedness of the fathers upon the children of the third and fourth generations, fancy English, of those who hate me, but showing loving commitment to thousands, to those who love me and guard my commands. You do not bring the name of Yahweh your Elohim to naught, for Yahweh does not leave him unpunished who brings his name to naught. Guard the Sabbath day to set it apart as Yahweh your Elohim commanded you. 6 days you labor and shall do all your work, but the seventh day is a Sabbath. Sorry, I saw a letter and I looked. Shouldn't have. But the seventh day is a Sabbath of Yahweh your Elohim. You do not do any work, you, nor your son, nor your daughter, nor your male servant, nor your female servant, nor your ox, nor your donkey, nor any of your cattle, nor your sojourner who is within your gates, so that your male servant and your female servant rest as you do. And you shall remember that you were a slave in the land of Mitzrayim, and that Yahweh your Elohim brought you out from there by a strong hand and by an outstretched arm. Therefore Yahweh your Elohim commanded you to perform the Sabbath day. Respect your father and your mother, as Yahweh your Elohim has commanded you, so that your days are prolonged, and so that it is well with you on the soil which Yahweh your Elohim has given you. You do not murder, you do not commit adultery, you do not steal, you do not bear false witness against your neighbor, you do not covet your neighbor's wife, nor do you desire your neighbor's house, his field, nor his male servant, nor his female servant, his ox, nor his donkey, or whatever belongs to your neighbor, and those who come around you are your neighbor. These words, often called commands in the Messianic writings, so the second writings. These words Yahweh spoke to all your assembly in the mountain from the midst of the fire, of the cloud, and of the thick darkness with a loud voice, and he added no more, and he wrote them on 2 tablets of stone and gave them to me. And it came to be, when you heard the voice from the midst of the darkness, while the mountain was burning with fire, that you came near to me, all the heads of your tribes and your elders, and said, See, Yahweh your Elohim has shown us his esteem and his greatness, and we have heard his voice from the midst of the fire. Today we have seen that Elohim speaks with man, and he lives. And now why should we die? For this great fire is consuming us. If we hear the voice of Yahweh, our Elohim, any more, then we shall die. Okay, and they were just afraid. For who is there of all flesh who has heard the voice of the living Elohim speaking from the midst of the fire, as we have, and does live? I mean, Moshe, Aaron and Moshe, like, you go near and hear all that Yahweh our Elohim says, and speak to us all that Yahweh our Elohim says to you, and we shall hear and do it. And Yahweh heard the voice of your words when you spoke to me, and Yahweh said to me, I have heard the voice of the words of this people which they have spoken to you. They have done well in all that they have spoken. Yeah, because now that I think about it, one of them is probably doing something. They're all doing something. Like when Moses went up to the mountain for, 40 days, and they had already built a calf and were worshiping it. This is what brought us out. This is what brought us out. Anything that we can see. Anything, as long as we can see it. Fools. Anyways. Oh, that they had much a heart in them to fear me and to guard all my commands always, so that it might be well with them and with their children forever. Go say to them, return to your tents, but you stand here by me, and let me speak to you all the commands and the laws and the right rulings which you are to teach them, and they shall do them in the land which I am giving them to possess, and you shall guard to do as Yahweh your Elohim has commanded you. Do not turn aside to the right or to the left. Walk in all the ways which Yahweh your Elohim has commanded you, so that you live and it be well with you, and you shall prolong your days in the land which you possess, if you follow my commands. And clearly, as we've all learned, they didn't. Not only did they not do it, but they were very keen on not doing it. Leviticus 11. Excuse me. Eating unclean meats and stuff like that is considered sin too, so that's why Leviticus 11 is here. I'm just going to get into it. And Yahweh spoke to Moshe and to Aaron, Aharon, saying to them, Speak to the children of Israel, saying, These are the living creatures which you do eat among all the beasts that are on the earth. Whatever has a split hoof completely divided, chewing the cud among the beasts that you do eat. Only these you do not eat among those that chew the cud, or those that have a split hoof. The camel, because it chews the cud but does not have a split hoof, it is unclean to you. And the rabbit, because it chews the cud but does not have a split hoof, is unclean to you. And the hare, because it chews the cud but does not have a split hoof, it is unclean to you. And the pig, though it has a split hoof completely divided, yet does not chew the cud, it is unclean to you. Their flesh you do not eat, and their carcasses you do not touch, they are unclean to you. These you do eat of all that are in the waters, any one that has fins and scales in the waters, in the seas or in the rivers, that you do eat. But all that have not fins and scales in the seas and in the rivers, all that move in the waters, or any living being which is in the waters, they are an abomination to you. They are an abomination to you. Of their flesh you do not eat, and their carcasses you abominate. All that have no fins or scales in the waters are an abomination to you, and these you do abominate among the birds. They are not eaten, they are an abomination: the eagle and the vulture, and the black vulture, and the hawk and the falcon after its kind, every raven after its kind, and the ostrich and the nighthawk, and the seagull and the hawk after its kind, and the little owl, and the fisher owl, and the great owl, and the white owl, and the pelican, and the carrion vulture, and the stork, stork, and the heron, heron, after its kind, and the hoopoe, hoopoe, and the bat. All flying insects that creep on all fours is an abomination to you. Only these you do eat: of every flying insect that creeps on all fours, those which have jointed legs above their feet, with which to leap on the earth. These of them you do eat: the arba locust, arbeh locust after its kind, and the solam locust, solam locust after its kind, and the hargol locust, argol locust after its kind, and the hagab locust, agab with a line underneath of it, locust after its kind. But all other flying insects which have 4 feet are an abomination to you, and by these you are made unclean. Anyone touching the carcass of any of them is unclean until evening, and anyone picking up part of the carcass of any of them has to wash his garments, and shall be unclean until evening. Every beast that has a split hoof not completely divided, or does not chew the cud, is unclean to you. Anyone who touches their carcass is unclean, and whatever goes on its paws among all the creatures that go on all fours, those are unclean to you. Anyone who touches their carcass is unclean until evening, and he who picks up their carcass has to wash his garments, and shall be unclean until evening. They are unclean to you, and these are unclean to you among the creeping creatures that creep on the earth: the mole, and the mouse, and the tortoise after its kind, and the gecko, and the land crocodile, and the sand reptile, and the sand lizard, and the chameleon, These are unclean to you among all that creep. Anyone who touches them when they are dead becomes unclean until evening, and whatever any of them in its dead state falls upon becomes unclean, whether it is any wooden object or garment or skin or sack, any object in which work is done. It is put in water, and it shall be unclean until evening, then it shall be clean. Any earthen vessel into which any of them falls, whatever is in it becomes unclean, and you break it. Any of the food which might be eaten, on which water comes, becomes unclean, and any drink which might be drunk from it becomes unclean. And on whatever any fancy English any of their carcass falls becomes unclean. An oven or cooking range, it is broken down, they are unclean and are unclean to you. But a fountain or a well, a collection of water is clean, but whatever touches their carcass is unclean. And when any of their carcass falls on any planting seed which is to be sown, it is clean. But when any water is put on the seed, and any part of any such carcass falls on it, it is unclean to you. And when any of the beasts which are yours for food dies, he who touches its carcass becomes unclean until evening. And he who eats of its carcass has to wash his garments, and shall be unclean until evening. And he who picks up its carcass has to wash his garments, and shall be unclean until evening. And every swarming creature, the one that swarms on the earth, is an abomination. It is not eaten. Whatever crawls on its stomach, and whatever goes on all fours, and whatever has many feet among all swarming creatures, the ones swarming on the earth, these you do not eat, for they are an abomination. You do not make yourselves abominable with any swarming creature, the one swarming, and do not make yourselves unclean with them, lest you be defiled by them. For I am Yahweh your Elohim, and you shall set yourselves apart, and you shall be set apart, for I am set apart. And do not defile yourselves with any swarming creature, fancy English creature, the one creeping on the earth, for I am Yahweh, who is bringing you up out of the land of Mitzrayim to be your Elohim, and you shall be set apart, for I am set apart. This is the Torah of the beasts and the birds and every living being, the creeping creature in the waters, and every being that swarms on the earth, to make a distinction between the unclean and the clean, and between the living creature that is eaten and the living creature that is not eaten. Leviticus 19, 1-19. Leviticus 19. And Yahweh spoke to Moshe, saying, Speak to all the congregation of the children of Israel, and say to them, Be set apart, for I, Yahweh, your Elohim, am set apart. Each one of you should fear his mother and his father, and guard my Sabbaths. I am Yahweh, your Elohim. Do not turn to idols, and do not make for yourselves molded mighty ones. I am Yahweh, your Elohim. And when you slaughter a slaughtering of peace offerings to Yahweh, slaughter it for your acceptance. It is eaten the same day you slaughter it, and on the next day, and that which is left on the third day is burned with fire. For if it is eaten at all on the third day, it is abominable, it is not accepted, and he who eats it bears his crookedness, because he has profaned the set-apart offering of Yahweh, and that being shall be cut off from his people. And when you reap the harvest of your land, when you reap the harvest of your land, do not completely reap the corners of your field, or gather the gleanings of your harvest, and do not glean your vineyard, or gather every grape of your vineyard. Leave them for the poor and the sojourner. I am Yahweh your Elohim. Do not steal, do not lie, do not deceive one another, do not swear falsely by my name, and so profane the name of your Elohim. I am Yahweh. Do not oppress your neighbor or rob him. Also, it could be her. The wages of him who is hired is not to remain with you all night until morning. Do not curse the deaf or put a stumbling block before the blind. But fear your Elohim, I am Yahweh. Do no unrighteousness in right ruling. Do not be partial to the poor or favor the face of the great, but rightly rule your neighbor in righteousness. Do not go slandering among your people. Do not stand against the blood of your neighbor. I am Yahweh. Do not hate your brother in your heart. Reprove your brother for certain, and bear no sin because of him. Do not take vengeance or bear a grudge against the children of your people, and you shall love your neighbor as yourself. I am Yahweh. Guard my laws. Do not let your livestock mate with another kind. Do not sow your field with mixed seed, and do not put a garment woven of two sorts of thread upon you. I don't know why you would. I honestly don't think that matters anymore. They do not put a garment woven of two sorts of thread upon you. There's another part in here. The one part I wanted to just leave in there was guard my laws and do not let your... Well, no, just guard my laws. Like, just stop right there. But I figured I'd finish the whole thing. He just wanted them all to have either, like, one type of thread, one type of seed, one type of this, one type of that. But they didn't follow anything that he said. I'm pretty sure my clothes are not made out of, like, less than one piece of type of material. I don't even know if that is a thing. You can get that like that. Or maybe I'm wrong and maybe my clothes are one type. I don't know. I don't know anything about clothing or materials or weaving or sewing. But Leviticus 19:23-37. And when you come into the land and have planted all kinds of trees for food, then you shall reckon your fruit as uncircumcised. For 3 years it is as uncircumcised to you, it is not eaten. And in the 4th year all its fruit is set apart, praises to Yahweh. And in the 5th year you eat its fruit, so that it increases its yield to you. I am Yahweh your Elohim. Do not eat meat, fancy English, meat with the blood. Do not practice divination or magic. Do not round the corner of your head, nor destroy the corner of your beard, and do not make any cuttings in your flesh for the dead, nor put tattoo marks on you. I am Yahweh. Do not profane your daughter by making her a whore, so that the land does not whore, and the land becomes filled with wickedness. Guard my Sabbaths and reverence my set-apart place. I am Yahweh. Do not turn to mediums, and do not seek after spiritists to be defiled by them. I am Yahweh your Elohim. Rise up before the gray-headed, and you shall favor the face of an old man, and shall fear your Elohim. I am Yahweh. And when a sojourner sojourns with you in your land, do not oppress him. Let the sojourner who sojourns among you be to you as the native among you, and you shall love him as yourself. For you were sojourners in the land of Mitzrayim. I am Yahweh your Elohim. Do no unrighteousness in right ruling, in measurement of length, in weight, or in measuring liquids. Have right scales, right weights, a right ephah, E with a half a check mark, PHAH, and a right hin, HIN. I am Yahweh your Elohim, who brought you out of the land of Mitzrayim, MITSRAYIM, which is Egypt. And you shall guard all my laws and all my right rulings, and do them. I am Yahweh. Sorry about those Satan bells. Leviticus 20. pretty sure, 21, 4 to 5 too. Anyways, Leviticus 20. And Yahweh spoke to Moshe, saying, Say to the children of Israel, any man of the children of Israel, or of the sojourners who sojourn in Israel, who gives any of his offspring to Molech, Molek, with a line underneath it, which is an idol. When they give their children to Molech, they sacrifice them, so they kill them and they burn them to this idol, which is demonic, shall certainly be put to death. The people of the land shall stone him with stones, and I shall set my face against that man, and shall cut him off from the midst of his people, because he has given of his offspring to Molech, so as to defile my set apart place and to profane my set apart name. And if the people of the land at all hide their eyes from the man as he gives any of his offspring to Molech, and they do not kill him, then I shall set my face against that man and against his clan, and shall cut him off, and all who go whoring after him, even go whoring after Molech, from the midst of their people, and the being who turns to mediums and to spiritists, to go whoring after them, I shall set my face against that being, and cut him off from the midst of his people. And you shall set yourselves apart, and shall be set apart, for I am Yahweh your Elohim, and you shall guard my laws and do them. I am Yahweh who sets you apart, for everyone who curses his father or his mother shall certainly be put to death. He has cursed his father or his mother, his blood is on him. And a man who commits adultery with his wife of another man who commits adultery... And a man who commits adultery with the wife of another man who commits adultery with the wife of his neighbor, the adulterer and the adulteress shall certainly be put to death. And a man who lies with the wife of his father has uncovered the nakedness of his father. Both of them shall certainly be put to death. Their blood is upon them. And a man who lies with his daughter-in-law, both of them shall certainly be put to death, for they have made confession, their blood is upon them. And a man who lies with a male, as he lies with a woman, both of them have done an abomination, they shall certainly be put to death, their blood is upon them. And a man who marries a woman and her mother, it is wickedness, they are burned with fire, both he and they, that there be no wickedness in your midst. And a man who has intercourse with a beast, he shall certainly be put to death, and the beast you kill. And a woman who approaches any beast and mates with it, you shall kill the woman and the beast, they shall certainly be put to death, their blood is upon them. I just want to point out that this is very equal. Like, both men and women get treated the exact same if they do the same crime. I just want to point that out. And a man who takes his sister, his father's daughter, or his mother's daughter, and sees her nakedness, and she sees his nakedness, is it loving commitment? And they shall be cut off from before the eyes of their people. He has uncovered his sister's nakedness, he bears his crookedness. And a man who lies with a woman during her sickness and uncovers her nakedness, he has laid bare her flow. That's disgusting. And she has uncovered the flow of her blood. Both of them shall be cut off from the midst of their people. Disgusting. And do not uncover the nakedness of your mother's sister, nor your father's sister, for that is lying bare one's own flesh. They bear their crookedness. And a man who lies with his uncle's wife, he has uncovered his uncle's nakedness. They bear their sin. They die childless. And a man who takes his brother's wife, it is uncleanness. He has uncovered his brother's nakedness. They are childless. And you shall guard all my laws and all my right rulings, and do them, so that the land where I am bringing you to dwell does not vomit you out. and do not walk in the laws of the nation which I am driving out before you, for they do all these, and therefore I loathed them. But I say to you, you are going to possess their land, and I myself give it to you to possess it, a land flowing with milk and honey. I am Yahweh your Elohim, who has separated you from the peoples, and you shall make a distinction between clean beasts and between unclean birds and clean, and do not make yourselves abominable by beast or by bird or whatever creeps on the ground, which I have separated from you as unclean, and you shall be set apart to me, for I am Yahweh. For I, Yahweh, am set apart and have separated you from the peoples to be mine. And a man or a woman in whom there is a medium, or who are spiritists, shall certainly be put to death. They are to stone them with stones. Their blood is upon them. I'd also like to point out that you can no longer just decide to stone people, because you're not under the rule of you are under the rule of Yahweh, but you're in exile. You no longer get to make those decisions. Since you're under the rule of Babel, you no longer get to ask for that stuff. When you were a nation and you could make those decisions, you could make those decisions. But since you can't legally go before the law and ask people to be stoned, you don't get to stone people. There was something else in here. Oh yes, the land that they got to possess. The people went before and asked if they could pass through their land to make a sacrifice somewhere for Yahweh, and they all said no and took up armies and came against them, and Israel defended itself the entire way through. Every single country turned against them. Were like, no, you're not going to come through. No, you're not coming through here. And then they kept bringing up their arms and coming against them, and we can't go past you because you're going to slaughter us, so we're going to take you out. It's their own doings. Their hearts were hardened towards Yahweh. Leviticus 21:4-5. A leader does not defile himself among his people to profane himself. They do not make any bald place on their heads, and they do not shave the corner of their beard, and they do not make a cutting in their flesh. And they do not make a cutting in their flesh. Like tattoos and stuff, so cutting in your flesh, stuff like that. You're not supposed to mark your body. Although, I mean, if you become a believer and you've already marked your body, I mean, there's a difference to doing it before and after you became a believer. Big difference. Exodus 16:23-31. Exodus 16. 23-31. And he said to them, this is what Yahweh has said, tomorrow is a rest, a Sabbath set apart to Yahweh, that which you bake, bake, and that which you cook, cook, and lay up for yourselves, and that is left over to keep it until morning. And they laid it up till morning, as Moshe commanded, and it did not stink, and no worm was in it. And Moshe said, eat it today, for today is a Sabbath to Yahweh. Today you do not find it in the field. Gather it 6 days, but on the seventh day, which is in the Sabbath, there is none. And it came to be that some of the people went out on the seventh day to gather, but they found none. And Yahweh said to Moshe, how long shall you refuse to guard my commands and my Torah, T-O-R-O-T, which is teaching. Plural of Torah, teaching. See, because Yahweh has given you the Sabbath, therefore he is giving you bread for 2 days. On the 6th day, let each one stay in his place. Do not let anyone go out of his place on the 7th day. So the people rested on the seventh day, and the house of Israel called its name manna, and it was like white coriander seed, Coriander seed, and the taste of it was like thin cakes made with honey. Exodus 17, 1-7. And all the congregation of the children of Israel set out on their journey from the wilderness of Sin, S-I-N, according to the mouth of Yahweh, and camped in Rephidim, R-E-P-H-I-D, with a line underneath of it, I-M, and there was no water for the people to drink. Therefore the people strove with Moshe and said, Give us water to drink. And Moshe said to them, Why do you strive with me? Why do you try Yahweh? And the people thirsted there for water. And the people grumbled against Moshe and said, Why do you bring us out of Mitzrayim to kill us and our children and our livestock with thirst? Then Moshe cried out to Yahweh, saying, What do I do with these people, or with this people? Yet a little, and they shall stone me. And Yahweh said to Moshe, Pass over before the people, and take with you some of the elders of Israel, and take in your hand your rod with which you struck the river, and go. See, I am standing before you there on the rock of in Horeb, H with a dot, O-R-E with a half a check mark, B with a line underneath of it. And you shall strike the rock, and water shall come out of it, and the people shall drink. And Moshe did so before the eyes of the children of Israel. And he called the name of the place Massah, M-A-S-S-A-H, and Meribah, M-E-R-I-B, with a line underneath of it, A-H, because of the strife, S-T-R-I-F-E, of the children of Israel, and because they tried Yahweh, saying, Is Yahweh in our midst or not? What an insulting thing this is. Especially after you see like an entire ocean wall just now you can walk through, and the guys coming behind you that are trying to kill you get wiped out, and you still after that have the indecency to say that he's just going to abandon you. Exodus 34:21. $34.21. 6 days you work, but on the seventh day you rest, in plowing time and in harvest you rest. The Sabbath is something that just gets repeatedly said as something that you follow. You don't just not follow it, you do follow it. Numbers 9:18-20. Numbers 9:18-20. At the mouth of Yahweh the children of Israel departed, and at the command of Yahweh they camped. They remained camped as long as the cloud dwelt above the dwelling place. And when the cloud lingered many days above the dwelling place, the children of Israel guarded the charge of Yahweh and did not depart. And so it was, when the cloud was above the dwelling place a few days, according to the mouth of Yahweh they camped, and according to the mouth of Yahweh they would depart. Deuteronomy 15:4-15. Deuteronomy 15. Deuteronomy 15, 4-15. Only there should be no poor among you, for Yahweh does greatly bless you in the land which Yahweh your Elohim is giving you to possess as an inheritance. Only if you delightfully obey the voice of Yahweh your Elohim to guard to do all these commands which I am commanding you today, for Yahweh your Elohim shall bless you as he promised you, and you shall lend to many nations, but you shall not borrow, and you shall rule over many nations, but they do not rule over you. When there is a poor man with you, one of your brothers within any of the gates in your land which Yahweh your Elohim has given you, do not harden your heart, nor shut your hand from your poor brother, for you shall certainly open your hand to him, and certainly lend him enough for his need, whatever he needs. Be on guard lest there be a thought of Belial, the rapist family, Beliya', in your heart, saying, the 7th year, the year of release, is near, and your eye is evil against your poor brother, and you give him not an AUGHT, and he shall cry out to Yahweh against you, and it shall be a sin to you. You shall certainly give to him, and your heart should not be grieved when you give to him, because for this reason Yahweh your Elohim does bless you in all your works and in all to which you put your hand, because the poor one does not cease from the land. Therefore I am commanding you, saying, you shall certainly open your hand to your brother, to your poor and to your needy one in your land. When your brother is sold to you, a Hebrew man or a Hebrew woman, and shall serve you 6 years, then let him go for free from you in the 7th year. And when you send him away free from you, let him not go away empty-handed. You shall richly supply him from your flock and from your threshing floor and from your winepress with that which Yahweh has blessed you with. Give to him. And you shall remember that you were a slave in the land of Mitzrayim, and Yahweh your Elohim ransomed you. Therefore I am commanding you this word today. Amen. Deuteronomy 24, 14-22. Yes. Do not oppress a hired servant who is poor and needy, of your brothers or of your sojourners who are in your land within your gates. Give him his wages on the same day, and do not let the sun go down on it, for he is poor and lifts up his being to it, so that he does not cry out against you to Yahweh, and it shall be sin in you. Fathers are not put to death for their children, and children are not put to death for their fathers. Each is to die for his own sin. Do not twist the right ruling of a sojourner or the fatherless, nor take the garment of a widow. But you shall remember that you were a slave in Mitzrayim, and that Yahweh your Elohim ransomed you from there. Therefore I am commanding you to do this word. When you reap your harvest in your field and have forgotten a sheaf in the field, do not go back to get it. Let it be for a sojourner, for the fatherless, and for the widow, so that Yahweh your Elohim might bless you in all the work of your hands. In all the work of your hands, when you beat your olive trees, do not examine the branch behind you. Let it be for the sojourner, for the fatherless, and for the widow. When you gather the grapes of your vineyard, do not glean behind you. Let it be for the sojourner, for the fatherless, and for the widow, and you shall remember that you were a slave in the land of Mitzrayim. Therefore I am commanding you to do this word. Amen. Nehemiah 8, 1-3. 8:30. There we go. Nehemiah 8, 1-3. And when the 7th new moon, fancy English moon, came, so the 7th month came, the children of Israel were in their cities, and all the people gathered together as one man in the open space that was in front of the water gate, and they spoke to Ezra, Ezra, the scribe, to bring the book of the Torah of Moshe, which Yahweh had commanded Israel. And Ezra the priest brought the Torah before the assembly of both men and women and all who could hear with understanding on the first day of the 7th new moon, and he read from it in the open space in front of the water gate from morning until midday before the men and women and those who could understand, and the ears of all the people listened to the book of the Torah. Amen. Nehemiah 9, 11-21. Nine, 11-21. And you split the sea before them, and they passed over into the midst of the sea on the dry land, and their pursuers you threw into the deep as a stone into the mighty waters, and you led them by day with a cloudy column, and by night with a column of fire to give them light in the way they were to go. And you came down on Mount Sinai, Sinai, and spoke with them from the heavens, and gave them straight right rulings and Torah of truth, traditionally rendered laws of truth, truth in the law, the truth in the law, Torah, plural teaching, Torah teaching, anyways. Torah of truth, good laws and commands, and you made known to them your set-apart Sabbath, and you commanded them commands and laws and Torah by the hand of Moshe your servant, and you gave them bread from the heavens for their hunger, and brought them water out of the rock for their thirst, and said to them to go in to possess the land which you had sown to give them. To give them, but they and our fathers acted proudly and hardened their necks and did not obey your commands, and they refused to obey, and they remembered not your wonders that you did among them, and hardened their necks, and in their rebellion they appointed a leader to return to their bondage. But you are a forgiving Eloah, Eloah, showing favor and compassion, patient and of loving commitment, and did not forsake them, even when they made a molded calf for themselves, and said, This is your mighty one that brought you out of the land of Mitzrayim, and worked great blasphemies. Yet you, in your great compassion, did not forsake them in the wilderness. The column of the cloud did not turn away from them by day to lead them on the way, nor the column of fire by night to give them light in the way they were to go. You also gave your good spirit to instruct them, and did not withhold your manna from their mouth, and gave them water for their thirst. And for 40 years you sustained them in the wilderness. They lacked not, their garments did not wear out, and their feet did not swell. That's another thing I'm going to be doing one on is the wonders that Yahweh has done, the miracles. That'll be a whole other video. But Nehemiah 9, 26-37. But they became disobedient and rebelled against you, and cast your Torah behind their backs, and they kill your prophets who have warned them to bring them back to yourself, and they worked great blasphemies. Therefore you gave them into the hand of their enemies who distressed them, and in the time of their distress, when they cried out to you, you heard from the heavens, and according to your great compassion you gave them saviors who saved them from the hand of their enemies. But after they had rest, they turned back to do evil before you. Then you left them in the hand of their enemies, so that they ruled over them. But when they turned back and cried out to you, you heard from the heavens and delivered them according to your compassion many times, and warned them to bring them back to your Torah. But they acted proudly and did not obey your commands, and sinned against your right rulings, which if a man does, he shall live by them. And they gave the rebellious shoulder and hardened their necks and would not hear. And you had patience with them for many years, and did warn them by your spirit, by the hand of your prophets. Yet they would not give ear. Therefore you gave them into the hand of the peoples of the lands. But in your great compassion you did not make an end of them, nor forsake them, for you are an El, E with a half a check mark, El, of favor and compassion, and now our Elohim, the great, the mighty, and awesome El, guarding the covenant and the loving commitment. Let not all the trouble that has come upon us, our sovereigns, and our heads, our priests, and our prophets, our fathers, and on all your people from the days of the sovereigns of Ashur, ASHSHUR, until this day, seem little before you. And in all that has come upon us, you are righteous, for you have done truth, but we have done wrong. And our sovereigns, our rulers, our priests, and our fathers have not done your Torah, nor heeded your commands and your witnesses with which you witnessed against them. For they have not served you in their reign, or in your great goodness that you gave them, or in the large and rich land which you set before them, neither turned back from their evil deeds. See, we are servants today, and the land that you gave to our fathers to eat its fruit and the good of it. See, we are servants in it, and its rich yield goes to the sovereigns you have set over us because of our sins, and they rule over our bodies and our livestock at their pleasure. And we are in great distress, and because of all this we are making a trustworthy pledge and write it, and our rulers, our Levites, our priests set their seal on it. I didn't have to read that last part, but I decided to because it was good. Genesis 2:16-17. And Yahweh Elohim commanded the man, saying, Eat of every tree of the garden, but do not eat of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, for in the day that you eat of it you shall certainly die. And they thought they were going to die right away, but no, it turns out that they would have lived forever if they didn't eat that. And Genesis 1:26-27, because that's a really good part, like putting that in there. Yeah, but he's on the next page. And Elohim said, Let us make man in our image, according to our likeness, and let them rule over the fish of the sea, and over the birds of the heavens, and over the livestock, and over all the earth, and over all the creeping creatures, fancy English creatures that creep on the ground. And Elohim created the man in his image. In the image of Elohim he created him, male and female he created them. Genesis 6. Genesis 6:1-13. And it came to be when men began to increase on the face of the earth, and daughters were born to them, that the sons of Elohim saw the daughters of men, that they were good, and they took wives for themselves, of all whom they chose. And Yahweh said, My spirit shall not strive with man forever in his going astray. He is flesh, and his days shall be 120 years. The Nephilim, Nephilim, were on the earth in those days, and also afterward, when the sons of Elohim came into the daughters of men, and they bore children to them. So they had sex with them, and they had children. Those were the mighty men who were of old, the men of name. And Yahweh saw that the wickedness of man was great in the earth, and that every inclination of the thoughts of his heart was only evil continually. And Yahweh was sorry that he had made man on the earth, and he was grieved in his heart. And Yahweh said, I am going to wipe off man whom I have created from the face of the ground, both man and beast, creeping creature, fancy English, and birds of the heavens, for I am sorry that I have made them. But Noah, Noah with a dot, found favor in the eyes of Yahweh. This is the genealogy of Noah. Noah was righteous. Noah was a righteous man, perfect in his generations. One second. Oh, yeah. Perfect in his generations. Noah walked with Elohim, and Noah brought forth 3 sons, Shem, Ham, and Japheth. Shem, S-H-E with a half a check mark, M, Ham, H with a dot, A-M, and Japhet, Y-A-P-H-E-T-H. And the earth was corrupt before Elohim, and the earth was filled with violence. And Elohim looked upon the earth, and saw that it was corrupt, for all flesh had corrupted their way on the earth. And Elohim said to Noah, The end of all flesh has come before me, for the earth is filled with violence through them, and see, I am going to destroy them from the earth. And after the flood, he had the rainbow, which was a symbol to the people of the earth that he was no longer going to completely flood the earth. One day, I swear, those sirens will be for me. Matthew 22, 36 to 40. Am I nervous? A little bit. I just wonder what'll happen. Who will I get to talk to? Who will Yahweh put me before to speak to? Will it be some crazy people who will just kill me down in the end, or will I actually be able to change heart? And wouldn't that be cool, eh? 12, 28 to 34. Matthew 12, 28 to 34. But if I cast out demons by the Spirit of Elohim, then the reign of Elohim has come upon you. Or how is one able to enter a strong man's house and plunder his goods unless he first binds the strong man? Matthew 22. I'm reading Matthew 12. Give me a second here. I was like, this doesn't make sense. Matthew 22, 36 to 40. Teacher, which is the great command in the Torah? And Yahoshua said to him, You shall love Yahweh your Elohim with all your heart and with all your being and with all your mind. This is the first and great command. And the second is like it. You shall love your neighbor as yourself. On these 2 commands hang all the Torah and the prophets. Because like we said before, if you were to do that, you would be doing everything that was there. You wouldn't be stealing from someone. You wouldn't be you wouldn't be robbing them. You wouldn't be murdering them. You wouldn't be whoring over them or coveting over them. We'll go Matthew 15, 1 to 14 first. And then we'll do Mark. Matthew 15, 1 to 14. Then there came to Yahoshua scribes and Pharisees from Jerusalem, which is Jerusalem, Yerushalayim, saying, Why do your taught ones transgress the tradition of the elders? Which, by the way, there's 36 plus other laws that were added to the Torah that made it a burden by the Pharisees. But if you get rid of them, again, the Torah is completely doable and it's easy. For they do not wash their hands when they eat bread. But he answering said to them, Why do you also transgress the command of Elohim because of your tradition? Because of your tradition. For Elohim has commanded, saying, Respect your father and your mother, and he who curses father or mother, let him be put to death. But you say, Whoever says to his father or mother, Whatever profits you have received from me has been dedicated, is certainly released from respecting his father or mother, so you have nullified the command of Elohim by your tradition. Hypocrites! Yeshaya, which is Isaiah, Yeshayah, rightly prophesied about you, saying, This people draw near to me with their mouth and respect me with their lips, but their heart is far from me. But in vain do they worship me, teaching as teachings the commands of men. And calling the crowd near, he said to them, Hear and understand, not that which goes into the mouth defiles the man, but that which comes out of the mouth defiles the man. This is again talking about washing your hands, not about eating unclean meats. Then his taught ones came and said to him, Do you know that the Pharisees stumbled when they heard this word? But he answering said, Every plant which my heavenly Father has not planted shall be uprooted. Leave me alone. They are blind leaders of the blind, and if the blind leads the blind, both shall fall into a ditch. Yeah. Mark 12, 28 to 34. Mark 12, 28. 12, 28 to 34. And one of the scribes coming near, hearing them reasoning together, knowing that he had answered them well, asked him, Which is the first command of all? And Yahoshua said him, The first of all. And Yahoshua answered him, The first of all the commands is, Hear, O Yisrael, Yahweh our Elohim, Yahweh is one. And you shall love Yahweh your Elohim with all your heart and with all your being and with all your mind and with all your strength. This is the first command. And the second like it is this: You shall love your neighbor as yourself. There is no other command greater than these. Greater than these. And the scribe said to him, Well said, teacher, you have spoken the truth, for there is one Elohim, and there is no other besides him. And to love him with all the heart, and with all the understanding, and with all the being, and with all the strength, and to love one's neighbor as oneself, is more than all the ascending offerings and offerings. And when Yahoshua saw that he answered wisely, he said to him, You are not far from the reign of Elohim. And after that, no one was bold enough, fancy English, enough to question him. Mark 7, 5 to 9. 7, 5 to 9. 5 to 9. Then the Pharisees and scribes asked him, "Why do your taught ones not walk according to the tradition of the elders, but eat bread with unwashed hands?" And he answering said to them, "Well did Yeshua, which is Isaiah, prophesy concerning you hypocrites, as it has been written, this people respect me with their lips, but their heart is far from me, and in vain do they worship me, teaching the commands of men." Forsaking the command of Elohim, you hold fast the tradition of men. And he said to them, "Why do you set aside the command of Elohim in order to guard your tradition?" Oh, slapped in the face. Usually they're like, choking on their own words. What do we say? Acts 13:45 to 47. Acts 13:45 to 47. But when the Yehudim, Yehud, with the line underneath of it, IM, saw the crowds, they were filled with jealousy and contradicting and speaking evil, they opposed what Shaul was saying, SHA', which is also Paul. But speaking boldly, Shaul and Barnabas, BARNAB, with a line underneath of it, A, said it was necessary that the word of Elohim should be spoken to you first, but since you thrust it away and judge yourselves unworthy of everlasting life, see, we turn to the nations, for so the Master has commanded us. I have set you to be a light to the nations, and you should be the deliverance to the ends of the earth. And you should be for deliverance to the ends of the earth. Acts 17:30 to 32. Truly then, having overlooked these times of ignorance, Elohim now commands all men everywhere to repent, because he has set a day on which he is going to judge the world in righteousness by a man whom he has appointed, having given proof of this to all by raising him from the dead. And hearing of the resurrection of the dead, some indeed mocked, while others said, "We shall hear you again concerning this." And Shaul went out from among them, but some men joined him and believed, among them Dionysius, Dionysios, and Areopagite, Areopagite, and a woman named Damaris, Damaris, and others with them. Amen. Romans, I read all the way up to 34, but anyways, Romans 1:17 to 32. Romans 17, what's it? Romans 1. Romans 1:17 to 32. For in it the righteousness of Elohim is revealed from belief to belief, as it has been written, "But the righteous shall live by belief." For the wrath of Elohim is revealed from heaven against all wickedness and unrighteousness of men who suppress the truth in unrighteousness, because that which is known of Elohim is manifested among them, for Elohim has manifested it to them. For since the creation of the world, his invisible qualities, fancy English qualities, have been clearly seen, being understood from what has been made, both his everlasting power and mightiness, capital M, mightiness, for them to be without excuse, because although they knew Elohim, they did not esteem him as Elohim, nor gave thanks, but became vain in their reasonings, and their undiscerning heart was darkened. Claiming to be wise, they became fools and changed the esteem of the incorruptible Elohim into the likeness of an image of corruptible man, and of birds, and of four-footed beasts, and of reptiles. Therefore Elohim gave them up to uncleanness in the lust of their hearts, to disrespect their bodies among themselves, who changed the truth of Elohim into the falsehood, and worshipped and served what was created rather than the Creator, who is blessed forever. Amen. Because of this, Elohim gave them over to degrading passions, for even their women exchanged natural relations for what is against nature, and likewise the men also, having left natural relations with women, burned in their lust for one another, men with men, committing indecencies, and receiving back the reward which was due for their straying. And even as they did not think it worthwhile to possess the knowledge of Elohim, Elohim gave them over to a worthless mind to do what is improper, having been filled with all unrighteousness, whoring, wickedness, greed, evil, filled with envy, murder, fighting, deceit, evil habits, whisperers, gossipers, slanderers, haters of Elohim, insolent, proud, boasters, devisers of evils, disobedient to parents, without discernment, covenant breakers, unloving, unforgiving, ruthless, who thought they know the righteousness of Elohim, that those who practice such deserve death, not only do the same, but also approve of those who practice them. That's a harsh one. That's real though, eh? 1 John 3:22-24. First John 3:22-24. And whatever we ask, we receive from him, because we guard his commands and do what is pleasing in his sight. And this is his command, that we should believe in the name of his Son, Yahoshua Messiah, and love one another as he gave us command. And the one guarding his commands stays in him, and he in him. And by this we know that he stays in us, by the Spirit which he gave us. Again, by doing Yahweh's commands. 4:21. 1 John 4:21. And we have this command from him, that the one loving Elohim should love his brother too. Oh yeah, 20 is pretty good too. If someone says, I love Elohim, and hates his brother, he is a liar. For the one not loving his brother whom he has seen, how is he able to love Elohim whom he has not seen? And we, having this command from him, that the one loving Elohim should love his brother too. And your brother being your neighbor, being the people around you. John 15. John 15. It's the last one, but it's the whole thing. I am the true vine, and my Father is the gardener. Every branch in me that bears no fruit, he takes away, and every branch that bears fruit, he prunes, so that it bears more fruit. You are already clean because of the word which I have spoken to you. Stay in me, and I stay, fancy English, stay in you. As the branch is unable to bear fruit of itself unless it stays in the vine, so neither you unless you stay in me. I am the vine, you are the branches. He who stays in me, and I in him, he bears much fruit, because without me you are able to do naught. Naught. It's a good word to look up. If anyone does not stay in me, he is thrown away as a branch and dries up, and they gather them and throw them into the fire, and they are burned. If you stay in me and my words stay in you, you shall ask whatever you wish, and it shall be done for you. In this my Father is esteemed, that you bear much fruit, and you shall be my taught ones. And as the Father has loved me, I have also loved you. Stay in my love. Excuse me. If you guard my commands, you shall stay in my love, even as I have guarded my Father's commands and stay in his love. These words, fancy English words, I have spoken to you, so that my joy might be in you, and that your joy might be complete. This is my command, that you love one another as I have loved you. No one has greater love than this, that one should lay down his life for his friends. You are my friends if you do whatever I command you. No longer do I call you servants, for a servant does not know what his master is doing, but I have called you friends. For all teachings, fancy English teachings, which I heard from my Father I have made known to you. You did not choose me, but I chose you and appointed you that you should go and bear fruit, and that your fruit should remain, so that whatever you ask the Father in my name, he might give you. These words, fancy English words, I command you, so that you love one another. If the world hates you, know that it hated me before it hated you. Fancy English, it hated you. If you were of the world would love its own, but because you are not of the world, but I choose you out of the world, for that reason the world hates you. Remember the world that I said to you, a servant is not greater than his master. If they persecuted me, they shall persecute you too. If they have guarded my word, they would guard yours too. But all this they shall do to you because of my name, because they do not know him who sent me. If I had not come and spoken to them, they would have no sin. If I had not come and spoken to them, they would have no sin, but now they have no excuse for their sin. He who hates me hates my Father as well. If I did not do among them the works which no one else did, they would have no sin, but now they have both seen and have hated both me and my Father. When they first hated the Father is when they refused to do his commands. And if you don't love the Father, you don't love the Son. And if you don't love the Son, you don't love the Father. It's a two-way street. But that the word might be filled, which was written in their Torah, they hated me without a cause. And when the Helper comes, whom I shall send to you from the Father, the Spirit of the truth, who comes from the Father, he shall bear witness of me. But you also bear witness, because you have been with me from the beginning. Amen. That was a beautiful one. So not doing Yahweh's commands is sinning. Not following the Sabbath is sinning. Simply hating one another is sinning. Love everyone as you should love yourself, and forgive everyone of their sins, or your sins will also not be forgiven. Love everyone as you should love yourself. And follow Yahweh's commands, because they are an everlasting law. Says it very clearly multiple times. If you love Yahweh, you follow his commands. And if you don't love the Father, then you don't love the Son. See how that works? And the set apart ones are of the seed of Abraham, and if you're of the seed of Abraham, then the Torah is for you to follow. So yeah, with all that in mind, have a good night.